Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hub tonight. I'm your host, B. Smith tonight. Welcome to the Hub, where we discuss what health, finances, community, and education and politics. If you're on tonight, I would ask that you would like, share, and tag someone and tell them to get to the Hub. You can meet us here the first Friday of the month, where we have new guests and new topics that will not only inspire you, but as well as educate you as well. The Hub is where what ministry meets community. And like I said, I'm your host tonight, B. Smith. And tonight we have a fantastic segment planned for you. We're going to talk about foster care and adoption. There are currently, if you may not believe it, but there are currently 5,062 children living in the foster care system in the state of Virginia. Statistics also shows that 14% of all Virginia children will spend at least 3 to 4 years of their life in the foster care system. While these statistics are alarming, it's imperative that we know the process that entails in order to be a foster parent, in order to adopt, and the process and procedures and the things that you have to go through for that process. And the reason why you need to know, because at any moment, at any time, it can happen to one of us or it can happen to one of our loved ones. And depending on the system, this system is designed to help and assist families for displaced children. So what I want you to know is knowledge is power. And tonight we have partnered with the guest that knows the system and is kind enough to share her wisdom with us on tonight. So like I said, share, like, and tag. Our guest tonight is none other than Miss Sabrina Carr. She is a native of Hampton Roads. She is from Hampton, Virginia. She has worked in the field of community outreach since 2003. Her passion for people and community has taken her from the Virginia General Assembly to local government, for profit, and for the nonprofit sector. She has done this thing across so many dynamics and so many entities. She is currently working as the outreach coordinator for the Up Centers Foster Care and Adoption Program, which is located in Norfolk, Virginia. In her spare time, she writes a blog, wow, and she spends time with her husband and daughter. So bringing to the stage tonight is none other than Miss Sabrina Carr. We welcome you on tonight. Would you guys say hello to her? Hello, Miss Carr. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Can I just say that the music and the vibe, it was just setting a whole vibe in the atmosphere. I love it. I was rocking out over here. So
You probably doing this the whole time I'm jamming.
I
That's why, oh,
was
we gotta come on.
right.
It's always a vibe on the Hub, and we're so excited that you're here. That's definitely just tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of what you do, and then we'll go into the industry itself. And we got a list of questions for you all tonight. And like I said, if you guys got any questions or comments, put them in the chat and we'll definitely answer them. So go ahead, Ms. Carr, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So as you mentioned, I am a native of the Hampton Roads area. I have been here, lived here, and served here all of my life. So I have a true affinity for this area and for the community at large. I am married, have been married, oh gosh, since 2003. So we can do that math
20 years.
some other time. I am a mom to a 13, almost 14-year-old daughter. So pray for me.
Definitely praying now.
Right. But she's pretty amazing. I follow her. She plays travel volleyball, and so I've grown to love the game of volleyball now. And so, like you mentioned, I do write a blog. The name of the blog is Car Confessions, and that is where I don't claim to know everything, but I always say I can find a hack for life. And that's where I share all my hacks from dinner time, family, relationships, everything to kind of get through. So, and for my professional career, yes, I'm the outreach coordinator with the Up-Centers Foster Care and Adoptions Program. And that's who I am.
Wow, I gotta check out this blog. It sounds amazing. So you're gonna give me all the goods and all the details at the end. But definitely, Sabrina, how did you get into this industry of like, adoption and foster care, and how did that all come about for you?
So, like I mentioned, I've been involved in community outreach for quite some time, even before I even knew that there was a term for it. It seemed to be like a common thread in all of my positions that I've had. Like you said, both working in the Virginia General Assembly, working with the local governments and for profit and nonprofit. But what they all had in common was I was always out in the community connecting people, whether it be to resources, programs, services. And so a couple of years ago, I kind of identified myself as really a conduit. And so I'm really the person that's out there, no matter what my position is, I'm always connecting people, trying to help fill a gap that's in our community, or really just connecting them to something that they need, or something that the organization needs and really can connect to the community in that way.
Oh, I love that because everything's really about connection, keeping it
It
together,
is.
the communication and what's going on. And you're in outreach. So you're out there in the field, you're out there in the community, you're out there doing one-on-ones. And so it's
Absolutely.
definitely amazing to be out there and connecting people to all the different resources and different things that are available. Because I think a lot of times people really don't know what's resources and things and services that are available to them. And
Absolutely.
so being able to go out and connect them to the things that is needed and that some families really, really need is a great thing. And so you're at the Up Center. So tell us really about what the Up Center is and kind of what the Up Center does.
Absolutely. So the Up Center is actually the region's oldest and largest child and family services organization. Actually, in June of 2023, we celebrated our 140th birthday. So we
Wow.
are not new to the block. We're not
Oh
new
my
to the
gosh.
community. We are quite old, but we're still serving the community in many, many different capacities. We have 20 plus programs. Obviously, our foster care and adoptions program. We have a youth mentoring program. We do some mental health counseling. We also have a partnership with the Stephen A. Cohen Clinic that helps military, those that are serving the military, retired, active duty, and veterans, as well as their dependents, to get access to mental health services as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we're new to the community. We've actually been known to be a safety net
Mhm.
to the South, to the Hampton Roads community as well.
Okay, so do you guys service all of Hampton Roads? I know you all are located in Norfolk. Do you do, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, and all of those kind of the seven cities surrounding seven cities?
So the majority of our programs cover the Southampton Roads area, but we do have some programs that come over to the peninsula as well. We also kind of pride ourselves with being, an organization that if you are on the peninsula and we don't service that area, that we can connect you to resources that can help you. It may not be an identical program or an identical service, but we will connect you as best that we can.
I love the connection process. You guys are going to make it happen no
Hmm.
matter what. And
Absolutely.
that's just amazing. Because sometimes, those barriers kind of block people from getting the services that they need, but you guys have other options, another avenue. If you can't do it, there's somebody that potentially can help that identify family or client.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we put ourselves in potential clients or client shoes because, and we've all been there. You call, you have a need, you call an agency, an organization, and they tell you, "I'm sorry, we don't do that." Well, the issue is not solved. The problem is not solved. Now you're just either on your phone or Google or trying to connect with somebody to say, "Hey, do you know where I can get help?" And so, our all of our staff is really out in the community and really just trying to connect with people, so that if we do get a phone call, I know I get tons of phone calls that have absolutely nothing to do with foster care and adoption. But my stance is just because you called me and that's not my, area of expertise, I may know someone and I'm going to connect you with that person. It may not be the exact fit that you need, but at
Mhm.
least you're going to hang up the phone with at least another connection that may be able to help you.
Definitely, and I definitely understand, going through the foster care and adoption program and kind of like getting the runaround can be definitely frustrating, and I know we're going to go into details. And so I definitely want to know if I called up today and I was like, I want to be, a foster parent, what would be my requirements? What would I need or need to do to become a foster parent with your agency?
Yeah, so the first thing you would need to do is to attend one of our information sessions. That's kind of like an orientation that we host just to kind of get you acclimated and really understand how what the foster care system looks like and how you can get plugged in, specifically with the Up Centers foster care and adoptions program. But in terms of requirements, we do require that our foster parents be at least 25 years old. You have to have at least one available bedroom for foster children that's not shared with anyone. You have to own a vehicle, be able to pass all background checks, obviously. And those are kind of the yes, fingers crossed.
That thing I did back in '99,
And so to be able to pass all background checks, and really just to commit. And I know that sounds so basic, but just to have a level of commitment to continue through the journey, through the process, continue to or commit to attending the training, commit to children, it's all those types of things. So those are just on the surface, the general requirements that we have for our program.
And I like what you said about commitment, because when we read the statistics, initially we talked about children being in care to 3 to 4 years. And when I say care, I'm talking about being in that foster care system. So you can imagine the roller coaster with that. And so that is a long time commitment. And also thinking that, I know we have the adoption part, that means that these children particularly may not be reunified with their families or their loved ones. Do you guys have opportunities, if I was a loved one and maybe my niece or nephew may have came into the foster care system? Is there a program designed for me as a relative, or it's just straight foster care across the board, a foster parent?
So it's straight foster care. I do get that call often. For example, hey, my, cousin, nephew, grandson, you name it, is entering into foster care. How can I become a foster parent specifically for them? And we don't necessarily service those types of cases. But again, that's where the connections come in. We connect with agencies and organizations to be able to partner so that they can connect, those dots for those children. They wouldn't necessarily be able to go through our program, but we kind of walk them through that process with the local social services office or other agencies that they could work with.
Yes, and I definitely know social services in the state of Virginia got that family first commitment. They are dedicated with
Mhm.
children and families being reunified any way possible. So I definitely love that family first commitment. And so I want to talk about this. There are some myths about who can foster and who can't not foster. So let's talk about those myths that people believe, about being a foster parent, or what it really means or what it really entails. What are those myths? Or we can dispel those myths as well.
Yeah, I can't tell you like the number of times I've either been on the phone with someone or been at an event or presentation and somebody, I'll mention something and they say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea I could foster." And for some reason, there's like this picture that people have in their mind of what a foster parent, can be and can look like. And I always say, if it ain't broke, break it. So we do not, we don't have a specific mold other than the requirements. We don't have a specific mold of what that looks like. So oftentimes people think you have to be married. No, you don't have to be married. We have foster parents that work with us that are married, single, divorced, empty nesters, widowed. Um, it runs the gamut. That's one of the biggest myths that I get all the time. The second one is I have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of money. Now, yes, we do have some basic requirements in terms of your financial situation. And so you have to be able to take care of your family as it stands now. But that doesn't mean that you have to be, wealthy and have tons of coins just sitting in the bank somewhere.
We would all love a
You
ton of coins.
right. We have all different types of foster parents, and they work all different kinds of jobs. We have teachers, we have realtors, we have bus drivers, we have doctors. So as you can see, it just spans, it runs the gamut. But I get that all the time. So you don't have to have a specific job. And in terms of jobs, it doesn't even have to be like specific hours. So we know sometimes not everybody works traditional banker's hours from 9 to 5 or whatever, the case may be. Um, it could be, different shifts. Again, it's on a case by case situation. And so I always tell folks, don't rule yourself out because of some of those things. And then probably, one of the other myths that people think about foster care and children entering into foster care is that they're already ready to be adopted. And we know that is not true. Actually, when children enter into foster care, as you mentioned, the families first, their primary goal is to return back to their biological family. And that's also one of the kind of piggybacks on that myth. There's this big idea that agencies like ours and just in general, that we're here to break up families. No, we want families to be whole. And so how great is it for foster parents to be able to stand in the gap while these biological parents kind of have some time to do the work that they need to do while their child is in a safe, loving home. So these children do not come into foster care already ready to be adopted. Does their goal change to adoption? Sometimes, but there is no guarantee. And just because it changes to adoption, I tell all of our prospective families that the goal can change to adoption today. The ink is not dry.
It's not dry until that final adoption order come through.
That's right. That just starts another clock going. But we like to have folks that have a commitment to, and I know it sounds daunting, but to be able to open up your heart and home to children and not know how long they're going to be with you and still love on them.
And you make a great point, Ms. Carr, because, you love on these kids. And I know you've heard it, what if I get so attached to them and I don't want them to go back and I love them. So I think one of the myths is, and I know that a lot of times, a lot of foster parents become supports to the family. Is that true?
Yes. Okay. We've seen it several times where, because, one thing that we tell our families in training is that you are not a replacement for the child's family. You are an extension of the child's family.
I like that.
And we've seen it work beautifully where our foster parents become babysitters, or they still meet up. There's still a level of support for those, the biological family, and it works beautiful. We've also seen where it can be a little bit of a struggle, and just putting yourself in the biological parent's shoes, that seeing that foster parent can be a constant reminder of a difficult time that they had in their lives. But just know that, even if you feel like, oh gosh, I'm going to get attached and I'm not going to want them to go home. And I tell them, well, that's a sign that you have a heart and compassion, and you are the exact person that needs to be a foster parent. If you can very easily detach yourself and say, okay, great, fine. Yep, time for them to go home. We may caution that a little bit. It's like, what else is going on there? We want you to have some level of attachment, but also, and also understanding that as a team, we understand that when children reunify with their family, for the foster parent, it's a loss. And so we honor that. We give you time to grieve that. We're going to just kind of leave you alone for a bit. We're going to check in with you. But we want you to process that. We don't want you to just kind of jump back into the next thing, but we're going to honor that. But yeah, that kind of sums it up in a nutshell, like some of the myths that I get all the time.
And I definitely agree, especially when I hear you talking about, definitely those children that are aging out of the system that don't necessarily have that other support system from their biological families, but their foster family becomes basically their support system. And so I'm definitely I'm loving that we're dispelling all these myths,
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump right on into this. So I know you're at the Up Center, which is a private agency versus like the Department of Social Services. So can you kind of tell us the difference between the two, a private sector versus a non-private sector agency?
Yeah, so oftentimes people will say, well, the Up Center, they're doing foster care. I mean, doesn't social services have their own foster care program? Like, what y'all getting in the mix. And what I tell them off the bat is, we're not a competitor of social services. We are a community partner. And so kind of a little bit about how, it works in terms of how children come into care. Because there's also this thing that people think that at private foster care agencies, we kind of just have children waiting somewhere. And that's not true. We get referrals from social services oftentimes when they can't place them in their own homes that are licensed with them. Maybe it's a larger sibling group. Maybe the child or the children have some higher level needs. And so because we are a private agency, we're able to structure ourselves a little bit different. We're still licensed by the Virginia Department of Social Services, but we have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of how we can structure ourselves, even extending more complex training to our foster parents. Because the children it's not always guaranteed, but the children may have some higher level needs, in terms of behaviors, maybe some emotional needs, maybe even medical needs. And the training that we provide to our parents means that they're going to be able to handle a lot of those needs. Again, it doesn't mean that social services doesn't train in that same way, but we just dig a little bit deeper to make sure that our families can handle behaviors or emotions or, things like that.
Because social services really use you as a service provider as well, in the
Mhm.
event that they cannot provide that level of care to a child. And I definitely, you mentioned one thing that is critical, large sibling groups, and I think a lot
Mhm.
of people are not aware when you have a family of six siblings, a lot of times, sometimes social services cannot meet that need of trying to place
Right.
all of those children together, where as you all sometimes have designed families set up to take in large sibling groups. And so
Right.
basically you're saying the two agencies are working together in partnership, in tandem. So if the social services cannot meet that need, then they reach out to you all, and then also you all provide whatever additional services to social services whenever you're needed in those different issues or concerns.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the beauty of the Up Center, because we offer some additional services and other programs. We kind of have some in-house services
Mhm.
that we can provide to whether it be the children or foster parents, or even connecting biological parents to parenting classes or things like that. So we have some in-house things that we can also use some of those connections for too.
Oh, that's amazing. So support across the board. And so as we're
Mhm.
talking about building partnership and connecting, I definitely want to talk to you about what support does the Up Center provide to families. So I've identified that I'm a foster parent now. I want to be a foster parent. I passed all of my background checks. What I did in 1999 didn't come up. Thank you, Lord. And so I'm good and I'm clear and I'm prepared to take on, my first placement here. And so what supportive services would you all provide different families if they were become a foster family?
So we have some general support that we provide to our families, but we also are able to provide some customized ones to our families. We recognize that not all families are cookie cutter. So you may come to us whether you've fostered before, maybe you've never fostered before, maybe you've never even parented before. And so you're like, because we have foster parents that have never parented before.
Wow.
And so we have to customize what that would look like for them, because they may have some different ideas. But just across the board to all of our families, we do offer 24/7 on call availability. So if a foster parent has an issue, or child spikes a fever, you've got to go to emergency room or urgent care. You can call our on call number, and at least two of our staff are on call every single night of the year, including weekends, holidays, including right now. So,
365 days, no days off.
yeah. And so why is that important? Well, because, our team meets on a regular basis. So we get updates about all of our families, all of the children. So just because your caseworker is not answering the phone, best believe we know all about all of our families. I was laughing with one of my coworkers. I'm like, if somebody said the last name of one of our families, it probably will be a little weird, but we probably could tell you where they work, how many available bedrooms they have, maybe even what they like to do for fun, because that's how well we get to know our families. We also, I mentioned a few minutes ago, in terms of our structure and how we have a little bit of flexibility in how our program is structured and our staff is structured. And although, social services is a community partner, we also know that social services caseworkers are inundated with caseloads. At the Up Center, we have a written policy that none of our caseworkers can have any more. I need a drum roll. Any more than 8 children on their caseload.
Wow.
That's it. And
Really?
I say that's it. It's still a lot, but 8 is the maximum, because that allows the caseworkers to really keep in touch with, on a regular basis, get to see the children face to face, get to see the families, finding out what their needs are, finding out what the children need, like all of that. Um, and so that's one of the beauties of our program and how we're situated. And then probably one of the best supports that we can give to our foster parents is we host a quarterly support group that is just for our foster parents at the Up Center.
Wow.
It's a time for the foster parents to really connect with each other, because we've all been through things, both good and bad. And how great is it to have other folks that are right alongside with you doing the same thing? You have us as a professional team, but it's really nice to be able to network with other foster parents, whether they be in the same city, fostering the same age group, even to connect with other families that are fostering another portion of the sibling group.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that. We also provide some element of training in those support groups, so that our families can, be the most successful that they can.
I
And I would say the
definitely.
last thing, and that's
Okay.
probably a myth too. One
Uh-huh.
of the other supports that we provide is financial compensation.
Yes. Hey, we all need a little help out here, everything.
Yes,
Inflation.
that's right. We don't expect you to take in foster children and just say, okay, figure it out. No. Again, as I mentioned a little bit ago, you do have to be financially stable,
Hmm.
but that's taking care of your household as it is now. Obviously, adding another child or children into the home, that costs money.
Things are going to increase,
Yeah,
definitely.
things are going to increase a lot of times, and I know you know this. They don't come into care with everything that they need. Um,
No.
we're smack dab in the middle of a school year. They're probably not going to come to you with a backpack full of school supplies or, clothing or things like that. And so you do get paid to be a foster parent. Now, yes, that money has to be used for the child, and essentials and things that they need, but you do get some financial support as well.
Definitely the compensation is definitely, needed. And I think a lot of people run away because they're like, okay, how much are we going to get paid? But definitely that
Yeah.
compensation is helpful. With inflation, everything costs. And I think,
Yes.
Sabrina, one of the things you said, I think a lot of people don't know, some kids just come with a backpack. They don't come with many items. And then you think about a
Right.
sibling group that's stair step that, or you're thinking about an infant that is coming in, or you think about toddlers and diapers and wipes.
Right.
Those things can be an added increase if it's just you. If
Right.
I'm single, I don't have anything, and now I have this young child, and I have to provide all these things. And so it is definitely a great support that you guys do provide that financial support as well. I definitely love hearing about this support group. And
Mhm.
then also the 8 caseload children minimum. State of Virginia, it's 15 cases, but just because you
Oh my
have 15
goodness.
cases does not mean you have 8 children. And so
Right.
I'm just amazed by this. I'm definitely amazed by this
It's
8
easy.
children
It's not
here.
easy to do, but we work very hard to keep that, for a variety of reasons. But again, it helps us to maintain that contact with families, and have that direct one-on-one relationship with families and the children. And even the foster parents' families, we get to know them too. So it kind of helps with a lot of that too.
And I definitely think it's just that you get attached to the children. You kind of get a more clear picture of who they are. You can
Yeah.
provide. I love because you talked about the customized support. That means that whatever is needed is tailored towards them and what their needs are. And so
Right.
you definitely get a better picture versus if you had a plethora of other cases and clients and kind of things. And definitely don't want to be cookie cutter because everybody may not need parenting. Everybody
That's
may
right.
not need that or this or that. So you are able to tailor towards their need. And so you did talk about training. I think
Mhm.
training is key. And a lot of children that are in foster care or in the foster care system experience trauma, you know. And so I definitely want to talk about training and the different types of training that you all provide if you were to become a foster parent and what you would
Sure.
need, types of trainings you would need. I mean, even education, do they need a certain education or degree? And talk about some of those things, Sabrina.
No, you don't. I mean, obviously, when you think about, teachers in the school system, or even mental health professionals, or things like that, because we do get folks as a part of our foster parent team that have some background working with children, or mental health, trauma, things like that. And so, but we kind of dig deep into our training. We do talk about trauma, all different types of trauma. There is a stigma about trauma. There's misperceptions about trauma, what it is, what it isn't.
Everything's
Um,
trauma, right?
Everything is trauma, or what we tend to see is only the big things are trauma. Um,
Hmm.
and so, we kind of walk through that. We do some assessments. We have all of the foster parents do assessments on, it's the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, I think it is.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so we have them do their own ACEs so they can kind of see what they're walking into the journey with.
Okay.
We all have our own baggage, whether we want to accept it, whether we want to talk about it, but that shapes who you are and how you communicate and build relationships with people. And so we never know their ACEs score, but we want them to know. So we talk
Okay.
about the ACEs, we talk about brain development because trauma impacts the brain. We talk about strengthening family relationships because as a foster parent, you are going to be a bridge between yourself and the biological parents. And so understanding that, again, you're not here to replace the parents, you're here to kind of fill in the gap. And you have a role in really strengthening what that family could look like moving forward. So that's kind of on a basic level, those are the things that we talk about in the training.
I mean, I definitely love the ACEs streaming that you were talking about because I think we definitely have to understand our own biases, you know, and I think even you may can talk to this, you know, sometimes, you know, we're raised a certain way. We come from a different family. Are there sometimes as foster parents, is there a level of expectation for some of these children to know different things? Like my mom may have taught me how to clean my room and make my bed. And I've heard where some children have never even learned how to take a bath and different things. So, can you talk about some of those, making sure that if you would like to become a foster parent, how to deal with your own biases in the ways that you were raised in your values and different things?
Yeah, so we tell folks, it's not that you negate any of that. I mean, we all live with our own lived experiences.
Hmm.
Um, but
Good.
you also have to meet the child where they are. You may have rules. I get this one all the time. Well, my house has rules. I'm like, well, that's great, but children should have rules. But understanding, especially if you have your own biological children, you cannot parent a biological child and a foster child in the same way. They're coming from different environments, different experiences. And so the rule for one may be a different rule for the other. Doesn't mean that the foster child doesn't have any rules, but it just means that their rules may look a little bit different. It could be, and children express themselves differently. You could have, the rule in your home is bedtime, hands down, 8 o'clock. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. 8 o'clock is bedtime. Well, when that foster child comes in and you say 8 o'clock is bedtime, maybe they're craving some one-on-one time with you. And it's at the end of the day. And now they're crying. It's 8:30. I don't want to go to bed. And it may
Hmm.
not be your traditional now on one hand, because kids love to, I want water, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yes,
always.
Dad, I'm hungry.
Right. They're hungry. They're never tired. All the things. So yes, those things are a given. But it could be that child is just craving some one-on-one attention, and they don't have the language to say, "Can I hang out with you for another 30 minutes before I go to sleep?" They
Mhm,
don't have that language. But a lot of times parents may come to us and say, well, a rule is a rule. And it's like, well, it is, but you've got to be able to be a little flexible as well. And so, yeah, some children may come to us that, have experience with, rules or things that they're used to doing. And as a child, they want to bring that to where they are living because that's what makes them comfortable.
mhm.
And our foster parents do a beautiful job of really transferring kind of what they've done before and kind of building it into whether it's their schedule or their routine. It may look a little bit different depending on what the household makeup is, but
Mhm.
they do a beautiful job of really kind of transferring a lot of that stuff so that it makes the child feel as comfortable as possible.
And I think you said the key word is flexibility. They're going through
Hmm.
transition, they're going through change, they're going through a various degree of different things. And so you being flexible in this role is going to help them be enmeshed in your home and
Yes.
kind of get on the same program that your
Hmm.
your home is already in, if your home's already in a routine, but it may take that child some time, but you being flexible and seeing where they're at. And I think you made the point earlier, meeting the child where they are. And
Hmm.
so I think that definitely is going to be beneficial, and definitely with the training, knowing your biases and different your values and your integrity and how that's going to shape and help that child along the way. You can kind of work those things in by being
Hmm.
that foster parent, but definitely meeting them where they are. And definitely you don't
Hmm.
want to re-traumatize them or anything like that. So definitely getting all of that information from you all. So I
Yeah.
think I think sometimes people think that it costs to be a foster parent. Is there any cost to the foster parent to be a part of the agency or anything like that? No, no
There
cost.
is absolutely no charge to be a foster parent whatsoever. There is no upfront money whatsoever.
And I think we may have skipped over it, Miss Sabrina. And can you actually tell them the process of the foster care process, and then a little bit about the adoption process? I think we may have skipped over that just to give them a little clarity because there's two different processes, not one process.
Yeah, and so just a caveat in terms of our agency with adoption. I know a lot of people, think that we're a lot more hands-on when it comes to the adoption process by virtue of our name. We are a foster care and adoption program. Um, and so with the foster care process, we, partner with social services. They will reach out to us to say, "Hey, Up Center, this is a need that we have." They'll give us the age, gender, and whatever information needed for the child that they're looking for a home for. We will kind of look through our homes as a team to see what would be the best fit. And then we kind of we let social services know. Social services ultimately makes the final decision. And but if they choose that particular family or any of our families, one at least one, usually more, but at least one of our team members will meet social services at your home just to kind of help with that transition. And I know a lot of folks may think, well, wait a minute. Well, why is the upset? They're trying to get all in the mix and everything. Um, and what we know, again, this is not to downplay anything that social services does. We think they do an amazing job and are an amazing partner of ours. But sometimes as foster parents, especially when whether you're new to fostering, whether you've been fostering before or what have you, when a child joins your family, especially that first day, first night, it can be overwhelming. There's lots of paperwork, there's lots of people, there's lots of questions, and a lot of times with foster parents, you don't know what you don't know, which means you may not know the question to ask in the moment. Or that child has been sitting at school all day, and when they come to your home, it's 7 o'clock at night. They're hungry. And they're saying, "Miss Sabrina, I'm hungry." You're trying to sign paperwork, trying to figure out what to feed them and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And what we're there to do in that process is to really say, okay, What can I do to help? You know what? Maybe we'll bring you some food. We'll sit down with you. We'll occupy the child or the children, play with them while you're signing paperwork.
Okay.
We may be the ones that asking the social services caseworker questions that maybe you don't think of. We'll talk about, what the next 24 hours is going to look like. And then we kind of, well, not kind of, but we walk you through, from the time that child enters your family until they are reunified.
Wow. So
Um,
you're there for the whole process all the way through.
mhm,
Wow.
absolutely. Even if you have a court date, we're there with you. If your assigned caseworker is not there, because maybe they're ill or on vacation or out of the office, someone from our team is going to be there. You're never going to go there alone. Um, we also, in terms of, once the goal switches to adoption, we just kind of make sure and getting updates from social services on where the process is, the paperwork that's needed. We don't really have a direct hands on with the adoption piece. We just kind of are there to kind of advocate and kind of help facilitate that process. The
Okay.
other thing that a lot of folks, in terms of our name, adoption, what we also do with adoptions, we are the Commonwealth of Virginia's adoption search agency. So if someone was adopted in Virginia or they're looking for their birth parents,
Mm.
maybe they, are trying to reconnect with their birth parents or trying to find their birth family, when they call the state is going to send them to us.
Wow,
We
that's
are the
amazing.
holders of tons and tons and tons of adoption records. Um,
Have fun
yeah,
with that.
I mean, and it goes way, way back. So we just moved into a new space, and you cannot get rid of adoption records. You have to
Cannot.
keep all of them. And there
Wow.
are some that, I mean, you can kind of see through. They're like so gray. If you pick up the paper, it might disintegrate in your hand. I don't know, because they're that old. But we do, in terms of adoptions, we do assist with adoption searches as well.
Oh, that's amazing. So you heard that, guys. They do assist with adoption searches. So if you know someone that are looking for their birth family or you want some information, you definitely can reach out to the Up Center. We do have one question tonight, Miss Sabrina. They ask, is there a certain age you have to be? I think there's a certain age you have to be in order to become, I believe, a foster parent.
Yeah, so you have to be at least 25. But the question I get sometimes is, is there a maximum age? No, there
So
is
no
not.
maximum age. So you can
Oh,
have
no.
if you do a relative, you may have a grandmother that's 60 or
Mhm.
70 years old that wants to maybe foster their grandchildren or something out of
Absolutely.
the system. Okay, okay. So there's no
Absolutely.
maximum age. I
Yeah,
like
we have.
that there's no ageism, no biases there. Yeah.
Absolutely, because everybody is in a different space. Everybody, you might have somebody that is, in their 60s and they are retired and living their best life. Who knows? Again, there's some things that we have to, talk through in terms of your physical health. But that's no matter if you're 25 or if you're 65. We're going to
Okay.
do that with all of our families.
So straight across the board, you do the same thing.
Yeah.
There's another question for you, Miss Sabrina. Is respite care something we can sign up to do? And you might have to explain what respite care is. And so,
Yeah. So, respite care, also known as short term care. Um, and so, really, it's, a short period of time that you are caring for children that are in foster care. The way I describe respite care is almost like it's just the foster care version of babysitting. That's essentially what it is. When you parent your own biological, like I said, I have a biological child who was my own. I don't have respite care. I didn't have respite care when she was
dad is
5.
the respite care.
My mom was a respite care provider.
Grandma.
Um, right. But it's really, you're caring for the children for a short amount of time, and then they will go back to their full-time foster parents. And what respite care does for the full-time foster parents, it really gives them kind of like a timeout, just kind of a reset button. And if anybody is on here that has children of their own, well, isn't it fabulous that you get a reset button? Because we don't get that. So as foster parents, they kind of, and it could be just to kind of get a reset, a refresh, a timeout, however you want to refer to it. But it can also be used, if they have an emergency and they've got to go out of town, or they have to take care of something for their family and they can't necessarily take the foster children with them. And so,
And
yes,
that is
we do.
usually, Miss Sabrina, because that's usually because the children are in the custodial, the department is the custodian for the child as well.
Yes.
And so there could be some barriers with that traveling. I mean, I know some children are allowed to travel out of country and
Mhm.
different things, but there may be some barriers. So they design respite, also to give the foster parent a break, but also when those types of things do arise.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we do offer opportunities for families to be respite providers. I will say, and this is like a shameless plug. I will say that most of our respite foster parents, they started off as respite parents, and
Oh,
after they had a couple of children come into their home, they're like, "Yeah, we think we want to do this full time." So it's no pressure whatsoever.
no pressure.
If
I need to
you
put it
want.
out there. She's looking for respite foster parents as well. Somebody said, "How long can a respite break be? How long can respite be? Is there a timeline?"
So it really depends. I will say most of our families only really use it for at most a weekend.
Okay.
And that's because, they may be going out of town or they just kind of want a time out for a little bit, and start back anew, whatever day. And so, but I would say our families typically, a weekend, maybe 4 days,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
And you got to remember, these children have a high level of need of care, and there's probably different things that are going on. Maybe in additional services, there may be some behavior issues, there may be some trauma, there may be some therapy. And so, if you have maybe 3 or 4 children in a home that has those kind of high level of needs,
Right.
sometimes, I mean, I definitely know as a parent, we would love to have that time out, but I
Mhm.
definitely know that sometimes these are greater needs that are happening in this home, especially depending on the foster parent, that having that weekend little break, or even for the child as well, giving them that kind of time out and little reprieve, and then bringing them back in the home is definitely helpful. So
Yeah, and that
just
what we find
go
it
ahead.
funny that the respite foster parents end up being like the fun parents. They're the ones that takes them to Great Wolf Lodge and Busch
Yeah,
Gardens,
they're
and
your auntie and uncle, give them the
right,
shoes, the Jordans, and then they send
uh
them back
huh,
home with all the candy.
and the kids come back and they're like, "I want to go back there. When are you going out of town again? I want to go back there,"
They're
which
like,
I
I want
mean
to go
is
back to this
great.
so and so's house.
Right, right. Which is great when they enjoy themselves and have a good time. We always tell our respite providers, it's like, manage your expectations. You don't have to go all out. Yes, you can have fun, but you don't have to go all out. It's okay.
I think it's amazing. And so, as we talk about the children, what is the age range of that for the children that are in the foster care system? The ages, or maybe the common ages that you all see, definitely of children that are in the foster care system. I know we talked about them usually being in the system from 3 to 4 years. And so, what
Mhm.
ages are you guys looking at?
So we are, excuse me, we are licensed as a private agency to accept children from birth all the way up to 18.
Okay.
What we are seeing, we're seeing, a significant increase of children coming into foster care. Number one is a part of a sibling group. We're seeing some large sibling groups
Large
too.
sibling groups, eight,
And that
9.
doesn't always mean that we're able to accommodate them. We have a sibling group now that is split between 3 homes, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and then we're also seeing an increase of children coming into care ages 13 and up. But you never know. We have 3 babies right now, one that's just about to be adopted.
Oh.
Um, yeah, which for a while I would always say, "Oh, we hardly ever get babies," and literally as soon as I said that, like the next few weeks, that's all we got calls for. Were babies.
And I think that's one of the myths too, right, Miss Sabrina? Everybody wants the little babies coming in, and no, we got a 14-year-old for you, you know.
Yeah. So the babies, I tell folks, because again, when you talk to me about being a foster parent, I am not going to sugarcoat. I am going to be transparent because I want you to walk into it thoughtful with manageable expectations.
Mhm.
And if you desire to foster babies, that's fine. And comma, understand that a lot of times those children come with some very significant needs.
Mhm.
Um, they may have some high level medical needs. So imagine having a child that's, being released, you're getting them and they're joining your home straight from the NICU. They may have a G tube that you have to know how to change, which means you've got to go to classes potentially at CHKD to learn how to do that. They may have some physical therapy. They may have some occupational therapy, and these are appointments, especially for babies, that could be, you may have occupational therapy on Monday night and Wednesday night, and then
Mhm.
physical therapy on Tuesday and Thursday night.
Somebody in your
That's
house
a lot.
every single
Yeah,
night, somebody be there. Yeah.
that's a lot. And on top of that, you got to change diapers and you feed them and you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and all those things. So, this is not to sway anybody either way, but just understanding with babies, that could come with a lot. They may be substance exposed. So that creates some other medical needs that they may have, some long-term needs that they may have. And then with teens, I have some folks that say, "Oh, I do not want teens. They don't listen. They don't." I told you I have an almost 14-year-old, and
I
this
don't
is
think
what
you
I have.
listen.
This is what I have come to learn, both in foster care and in my own personal house. That with teens, especially in foster care, though, either they're going to do it or they're not. That's just it.
Yeah.
With teens, you kind of know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
Um, Teens are teens and teens are teens. Like that's it. Whether they're in foster care or not, if they're in foster care, they may need a little bit more hand holding. But they come with a different level of expectation when they enter into foster care.
Definitely, I definitely agree. Children gonna be children,
Hmm.
regardless, and so we've had a great conversation, Miss Serena, and I know we could go on and on and on, and I know the time is getting away from us, but I definitely gonna send out this last question, and if there is any more questions, we'll take questions, and then we'll take a short break, and then I'm gonna bring you back on. But I want to know, what would you say are what are the top three characteristics of a successful foster parent?
Oh my
That you
goodness.
could say.
I would say first, and we talked about this a little bit ago, flexibility. Um, I get everybody has schedules. My husband says I'm not quite a type A personality, but I like things. I like to anticipate when things are going to happen. But flexibility, knowing that today may look different than tomorrow. A child may feel one way today and feel another way 3 hours from now. They might go to visitation, or maybe at school they were triggered by something. So you may drop them off at the bus stop one way and bring them home a different way. So just being flexible and kind of meeting them where they are, going into the day, knowing, today may look different than yesterday, and it's okay.
It's
I would
okay.
also say be nurturing. That's exactly what children need, whether they're in foster care or not. Just knowing someone is going to be there that has compassion, that is going to love on them. And probably the last one would be patience. Lots
Ooh,
and lots of patience. Lots and lots of patience. Because again, with how foster care works, I mean, you could go into it thinking, when we go to court today, it's going to be this. And when
but
you
it's
leave
something
out,
totally different.
it's completely different. And so, you just have to be patient with yourself, patient with the child or children that you're fostering, understanding that they are, working through some things, they've experienced trauma. And it is your ultimate goal to really teach them to see the world in a completely different way, if at all possible.
Definitely. They're just learning something new, and you're providing this positive support to them, and you're bringing all the things that you have to give to them, and that love, that
Yeah.
nurturing and support that all children want. And so definitely being a foster parent is just an amazing thing. And then even if it can translate even over to adoption, or even providing support if they're
Mhm.
reunified with their family, the whole process as a whole in itself is to provide love and care and nurture to these
Yes.
children who's going through some traumatic things. And
Yeah.
that process can be done through the Up Center. I'm going to take a short break if there's no more questions. And then, Miss Sabrina, I'm going to bring you back on and you could just tell them where they can reach you guys at on the Up Center and the process of starting the application. To go about doing that once I bring you on after my announcement. But definitely, it has just been definitely a great conversation with you on tonight. Thank you so much, Ms. Carr. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
We thank you all for joining us tonight with the Hub. I just got a couple of announcements for you. We definitely want to thank our sponsors. We definitely want to thank our House of God Worship Center family. Here are our announcements. Please join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock for Jumpstart, where we continue to pray without ceasing. And we also want to invite you every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for midweek impartation at 2510 Build America Drive, where we have been talking about God's Spirit. We also want you to join us for our morning manna that's going to be held on February 10th at 8:30 a.m. It's right here on Facebook Live, our House of God Worship Center Facebook page, for 30 minutes of powerful prayer. All right. And then we want you to come out. Guess what we're having? We're having a Super Bowl party on the 11th at 6:30 at House of God Worship Center. Invite your family and friends to come out as well. And then every Sunday morning at 11 a.m., we have Sunday morning worship service where you can join us at 2510 Build America Drive, and you can worship with us at any time. And so at this time, that's the conclusion of my announcement. So I'm going to yield the floor over to Miss Sabrina, and she can tell us where you all can reach her at and the Up Center and how to start the process. I did see someone on there talking about they were interested in the respite information. And so Miss Sabrina will provide that information. So thank you so much. And so we'll welcome Miss Sabrina back to the stage.
Yeah, so you can reach me by phone. You can call me at 757-965-8638. You can email me at sabrina.carr@theupcenter.org. Or it might be a little bit easier. You can find us on all of the social media platforms by searching the Up Center. You can also go to our website at theupcenter.org. We would love to chat more about, getting you all plugged into our foster care program, our foster parent team, because there is a significant need in our community, not just in the Hampton Roads community, but all over the state, all over the country. There is a dire need for foster parents. And just to kind of give you perspective on that, our program alone, the last fiscal year, and I know that's a real fancy government term, but our last fiscal year from July of 2022 to June, the end of June of 2023, our program alone turned away over 700 children that were in need of a foster home. So that's how dire it is. And we are just, in the trenches in the community trying to find prospective families that are willing to open up their heart, open up their home to these children when they absolutely need it most. So we would love for you to kind of come and get plugged in, join us for a no obligation, absolutely free virtual information session to learn more as well. So connect with me and I'll walk you through the process.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. It's just been an honor being with you on tonight. You all reach out to her. 700 children, that's a lot. We talk about 5,062 children in the state of Virginia are in care. We need families and they need your support. So I want to say thank you to our sponsors. I want to say thank you to our House of God Worship Center leaders, our guests, and our viewers. Invite someone to service online or in person, 2510 Build America Drive, right in Hampton, Virginia. And you can join us right here next month, the first Friday of each month, as we embark on more topics where what ministry meets community. Love you all. Have an amazing night. Thank you, Miss Carr. I'll see you again, and hopefully we can chat. You all be blessed.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.